you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here is the video that you came here for. I think now feels like a pretty good time to update my way too early college hoops top 25. And if you read AaronTorresOnline.com, if you follow me on social media, I've been doing kind of updates on that top 25 really about once a week since the season ended. But I haven't actually talked about it on the show. And so now feels like a good time to really reset and tell you who I have ranked and where I have them ranked. Reason being, with Hunter Dickinson's commitment on Thursday, the portal, it's not done, but most of the impact guys are really kind of accounted for. There's still one or two, whatever. But for the most part, most of the portal guys are accounted for. On top of that, the NBA draft decisions, everybody has at least made their decisions. There's going to be some guys that we think are coming back that will ultimately go. But for the most part, the NBA draft decisions are done. The portal stuff is done. So now feels like a good time to update that way too early top 25. Let's get to it. And let's get to number one in AT's updated way too early top 25. It is, drum roll, please. Brace yourself. It's the Duke Blue Devils. I know that pains a lot of you, but Duke was the top 5 team coming out of the season. But one thing that I talked about at the time, and it has come to fruition even more this spring, I do think Duke is at an interesting forefront in terms of maybe a new trend in college basketball. That trend, Duke had, to quote LeBron James, not one, not two. They had 3 different players who I think legitimately could have gone into the NBA draft and been drafted. None of the 3 even tested the NBA draft waters, and they all just said, I'm going to come back to college basketball. Because with NIL in place, now guys don't have to rush to the NBA. And what Duke sold them on, I know this because John Shires publicly said it in an interview, is they basically said, if you want to go pro, we're never going to hold you back. But if you don't feel like you're ready, come back here. We got a spot for you. You can make real money. It's not a decision of you can go pro and get something, or you can stay here and get nothing. Now you can make real money here. And so rather than going pro, rather than trying to grind through the G League, you can stay in college and get better. So Tyrese Proctor, their second leading scorer, was the first one to announce, I'm coming back. I'm not even testing. I believe he would have been a second-round pick if he declared. Mark Mitchell, I believe, would have been a second-round pick if he declared. He comes back. And then the big one about 3 weeks ago, Kyle Filipowski announces that he is coming back as well. That was Duke's leading scorer, leading rebounder. And so at minimum, we know that Duke has 3 guys coming back, and a 4th one is very likely in Jeremy Roach. Jeremy Roach, their starting point guard the last 2 years, including the Final Four team under Coach K. He's the only one testing the draft waters. I expect him back. As long as he comes back, Duke will probably be the preseason number 1 team going into next year, just like the group, just like the makeup. And again, they were able to convince a lot of guys that were thinking about testing. Hey, you don't even need to test. Come back here, make some money. We'll be good to go. At number 2, we got a new number 2 as well since the last time we updated this, as the Kansas Jayhawks have jumped into the top 2 of AT's way too early top 25. And we just spent a lot of time talking Hunter Dickinson, so I'm not going to spend minute by minute going through the Kansas depth chart here. But Hunter Dickinson was, in my opinion, the missing piece. Hunter Dickinson, 7'1" center, and you could talk about, well, if he was that good, he'd be a pro. He's a great college basketball player. 18, almost 19 points per game, 9 rebounds. This guy is a walking double-double. And now you add him with a Kansas team with DeJuan Harris at point guard, Nick Timberlake, Arterio Morris in the backcourt, KJ Adams on the wing. And as I said a minute ago, Mackenzie Mbako, the best available high school player that was committed to Duke, is now available. He was on campus this week at Kansas, and it's tough to say if there's even a leader at this point in his recruitment. He's visited St. John's, he's visited Kansas, will visit Louisville, will visit Indiana. But it's hard to say if there is a leader. But if Kansas actually gets this commitment, I think Kansas is the number 1 team in the country, because now you're talking about veteran point guard, shooting on the perimeter, McDonald's All-American probably at the 4, and a real All-American at the 5. We'll see with Mackenzie and Baco. And I might even, depending on what happens with Kansas, move them past Duke at number 1 because of Hunter Dickinson. But this Hunter Dickinson thing changes everything. They looked really good on paper before he committed. Now, this is a team that's good enough to win their second national title in 3 years. Let's get to number 3. And this was our number 1 team coming out of the regular season. That is the UConn Huskies. And so a lot has changed at UConn. 2 players are definitively gone. Jordan Hawkins, we knew he was going to declare. It was a matter of if not when. He's going pro. Adama Sanogo as well has not only declared, but Dan Hurley has said on the record he's done playing college basketball. Where it gets interesting with UConn, though, they have 2 players currently testing the draft waters. Andre Jackson, veteran, number 44, really good player. He is testing the waters. I think he can be a second rounder if he stays in. I don't know if he will, though. He's been with the team all offseason. He's been working out. The team went to the Mets game the other day. He threw out the first pitch. He's been practicing with the team, as I just said. I don't get the sense that he really wants to leave. My guess is that he's back, and my guess is that Tristan Newton, the starting point guard, is back as well. He actually went through senior day this past season, so I did not expect him to be back. Was a transfer this year. I think he's probably going to return to Stores. Beyond them, Alex Caravan to start on this year's championship team. Oh, by the way, Donovan Clingan will be back as well. Clingan, I went back and looked it up. Could not believe this. You know what Clingan's per 40-minute stats were? 21 points per game, 17.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 5.5 blocks per game. Now, he was playing behind the tournament most outstanding player, not criticizing Dan Hurley or anything like that, but it just shows you about what kind of potential he could have as a full-time player. Another guy that probably could have been drafted had he gone pro. He comes back, and it's worth noting as well, UConn has the number 3 ranked recruiting class in high school basketball. Stephon Castle, Jalen Stewart, Solomon Ball, Solo Ball. It was interesting. I saw this on social media on Thursday. 3 of the highest ranked freshmen coming into college basketball or coming into the Big East this year are going to UConn. So UConn is again going to have the most talented roster. Do think them as a legitimate championship contender probably comes down to Andre Jackson returning, but UConn is number 3. Number 4, the team that was actually better than UConn in the regular season this year, that is Marquette. And Marquette's an interesting one because remember, it wasn't UConn that won the Big East regular season. It wasn't UConn that won the Big East tournament. It was Marquette who won the Big East regular season, the Big East tournament, and they could essentially return everybody. They have 1 player, Omax Prosper, currently testing the NBA draft waters. But remember, what did I just say about Kansas a minute ago? With college basketball in 2023, returnees are important, continuity is important, and Marquette is going to have as much continuity as anybody in college basketball next year. So they're waiting on Omax Prosper. We'll see if he comes back, but right now I have them at number 4, and I really do believe this is a team, yes, that's good enough to make a Final Four, maybe, yes, even win a national championship. Let's get to number 5. It's a doozy. It's the Purdue Boilermakers. And like, I don't know what to say. First of all, Zach Edey is testing the NBA draft waters. In theory, he might not come back. If he doesn't come back, it changes everything. Don't think they're a top 25 team, although they weren't in the preseason this year, and they still got a number 1 seed. You guys know how I feel about Purdue. At some point, you got to show me something in March. You can't be selling me on you overachieve every year if you underachieve every single year in March. But at the same time, if Zach Edey comes back, you're bringing back basically everybody from the team that won the Big East regular, or the Big Ten regular season, the Big Ten tournament championships this year. And so we can wait until October and November to debate, are they good enough to make a Final Four? Are they good enough to win a national championship? But outside of a bench player named David Jenkins, they actually don't lose anybody. Purdue is at number 5. Number 6, going to get a kick out of this. First SEC team on the list. Whew. Can anyone stop the Big Pig invasion? The Arkansas Razorbacks, baby. Listen, Arkansas, it's been a wild offseason, and it might not be over yet, okay? So first of all, a couple really important returnees. Trevin Brazil, who I think would have been a first-round pick if he had decided to stay in the NBA, if he had decided to test the NBA draft. He does not. He is coming back. Jalen Graham, former All Pac-12 player. But then, oh, by the way, 5 impact transfers. Keon Menafield, guard from Washington. Tremont Mark, guard from Houston. Khalif Battle, wing from Temple. Jeremiah Davenport, three-point shooter from Cincinnati. And L. Ellis, the leading scorer from Louisville. Also, on top of that, you have a McDonald's All-American in Bay Fall. You have a 5-star in Layden Blocker. And so I bring it up because this is as deep, as loaded, as good of a team as anybody in college basketball. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, well, Torres, you said this at this time last year. I did. I didn't know that they were going to have 2 first-rounders get hurt with bad injuries, Nick Smith and Brazil. So until further notice, this is a team that I really like, and they are not done. Okay, so they have 2 players currently testing the NBA draft waters, Devo Davis and Jordan Walsh. Both could be back. Don't know if they will be, but both could be back. And then I think they're going to get Ron Holland. I said, I think they're the favorite for Ron Holland. He chose Texas over Arkansas originally, Arkansas and UCLA. Don't believe UCLA is really in the mix for him, at least not anything that I've heard. And then, oh, by the way, they're hot on Grant Nelson as well. How they figure out minutes, how they figure out rotations, I don't know. But this would be the most talented team in college basketball with any combination of those 4. That's the deepest, probably most talented 1 to 13 in college basketball. I have Arkansas at number 6. Number 7, after much thought and deliberation, sounds very serious, but I've decided to move Michigan State up a spot. Listen, Michigan State made the Sweet 16, basically return everybody. They do lose Joey Hauser, but the most important piece, Tyson Walker, 5th-year player, announces that he is going to come back and use his COVID season. All Big Ten player, really good. Other good players around him. Jaden Akins is a guard that you need to know. And also, on top of that, they also actually bring in a pretty good recruiting class. Xavier Booker, McDonald's All-American. Jeremy Fears, a player that I saw last summer at Pangos All-American camp, really good guard. So this is, probably the best team. It's certainly the best team in the Big Ten, or it's up there with Purdue. This is probably the best team Tom Izzo has had in about 4 or 5 years. Nice balance of veterans, of returnees, of guys that know what to expect with the young guys. Michigan State at number 7. Number 8, I still do like Kentucky. And listen, I just kind of bashed the roster, composition in the previous segment. I wish that Calipari had been a little bit more aggressive in the portal earlier. I don't think you can wait until mid-May to kind of try and figure things out. Right now, they do only have 5 freshmen, the ones that we mentioned: DJ Wagner, Aaron Bradshaw, Rob Dillingham, Justin Edwards, and Reed Shepard, as well as Ugana Onyenso, a redshirt freshman on their roster. Adu Thiero will probably be back as well. But what I would also say is, listen, I keep going back to it. You're probably going to get Antonio Reeves back. We'll see about Oscar Tshiebwe. But what it comes down to for me, when Calipari has an NBA caliber point guard, everything always looks better. Even this year, Cason Wallace, if he starts the year point guard, if Severe Wheeler isn't on that team, you're probably looking at Kentucky as a 2 or a 3 seed. Guess what number 8 in the country is? A number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, number 7, whatever I have them ranked. And so I just bring it up to say that when I look at this Kentucky team, I still like the pieces. I just need to see more filled out around them. I expect Antonio Reeves back. We'll see about Oscar Tshiebwe. Think you do have to add at least one more piece in the portal. And hopefully you can convince somebody like Lance Ware to come back. But I do have Kentucky at number 8. Number 9, the Houston Cougars. Love me them Cougars, baby. Torres loves his Cougars. But thing with Houston, thing that stands out, I like what they did in the portal. So they're going to bring back Jamal Shedd, currently testing the draft waters. Assuming he's back, you added LJ Cryer, a 18, 19 point a game scorer at Baylor, and you added Damian Dunn, a guard from Temple. That's on top of Terrence Arsenault. That's on top of some other good pieces. This is a really, really, really talented team, and it needs to be, because remember, they're going to the Big 12 next year. So Houston is my number 9 team. And number 10 right now, I have Alabama. Now, Alabama's interesting because they have 3 players currently testing the NBA draft waters. Big guy Charles Bediako, guards Javon Quinterly and Mark Sears. I don't really see any of those guys as being draftable, so I have all of them back right now. And that's on top of some other impact players, Rylan Griffin, who was really good, Nick Pringle, who's really good, And they added 2 really good transfers as well, Aaron Estrada and Latrell Wrightsell. Now, this was obviously the team. They did add another transfer, a kid named Jaquan Walton, who is no longer with the team, but I have Alabama at number 10. Quickly, I'll rip through the rest of the top 25. If you have any questions, you can always DM me or send me notes and ask about them. Number 11, I've actually moved up the Tennessee Volunteers because they added some impact guys in the portal. Dalton Connect, really good player. Chris Ledlam, really good player. Jordan Gainey, 3-point shooter. And that's on top of Sagai Ziegler coming back, Santiago Vescovi coming back, Jemai Mashak, coming back. I do like this Tennessee team. Now, it feels like they could be setting the world up for disappointment again, but this is a team that, once again, they should be in the top 15. They're going to be good in the regular season. They are going to have success. They are going to compete for an SEC title. Much like Purdue, a lot of whether we deem them a success or failure will be determined by whether they make a run in the tournament. Remember, though, they did make the Sweet 16 this year without Sakai Ziegler. I have Tennessee at number 11. Creighton at number 12. They have 2 players testing the waters right now, Ryan Kalkbrenner and Trey Alexander. You get both those back, we probably have to start talking about Creighton as a top 10 team. They also have a kid named Steve Ashworth who transferred in, really good player out of Utah State. Number 13, Florida Atlantic. They could return everybody from their Final Four team. Number 14, Gonzaga. We talked a little bit about them a few weeks ago. Add Ryan Nembhard, add Graham Ike. That's a really good team all of a sudden. Don't think they're that national championship type contender, but should be really good in the regular season. Number 15, controversial, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Listen, this is put up or shut up time for Hubert Davis. As I've said all offseason, the whole offseason has been pinned on blame Caleb Love for everything. Well, Caleb Love's gone. Armando Bacot's back. RJ Davis is back. And 4 impact transfers in the portal. Cormac Ryan, a 3-point shooter. Jalen Withers, a big guy down low. Paxton Wojcik, a 3-point shooter. Harrison Ingram is the star there. He'll probably be at the 3. One thing worth noting with Carolina, they have 2 5-star guards, Elliot Cadeau and Ian Jackson. Each has been rumored with reclassification. Would not be surprised if one of those guys shows up on campus before the summer's over. 16, Texas A&M. They basically returned everybody off of last year's team except for Dexter Dennis. Remember, Texas A&M finished 2nd in the SEC. San Diego State should return a lot. Lamont Butler, NCAA tournament hero, testing the NBA draft waters. We'll see on him. Big mover at 18, Xavier. Say this for Sean Miller, man. Sean Miller is an elite recruiter. And Arizona. Well, guess what? He went in the portal this year at Xavier and had a great offseason. Added Davion McKnight from Western Kentucky, Quincy Oliveri from Rice, Logan Duncombe from Indiana, and then a big guy from North Texas. And that's on top of 3 guys that were part of last year's Sweet 16 team coming back. Name to watch there, Desmond Claude. Shout out New Haven, Connecticut, baby. I think he has a chance to be a breakout star. 19, Arizona. Big piece of news with Arizona this week. They added Jaden Bradley, the former Alabama guard. 20, USC. Remember, USC, number 1 high school player in America, Isaiah Collier, is committed. Really quickly, 21, Miami. 22, Maryland. 23, St. Mary's. 24, Baylor. 25, Auburn. Villanova is the team that I would have. I'll say this. I have 2 or 3. Villanova, I thought they did well in the portal. Florida, I think it should be in contention for a top 25 spot with what they've done in the portal. But those are my way too early top 25. Again, Duke at 1, Kansas 2, UConn 3, Marquette 4, Purdue 5, Arkansas 6, Michigan State 7, Kentucky 8, Houston 9, Alabama 10.